Oh, I don't know how to do it then if it's not coming up now.
Have you clicked the share screen and then, oh, there you go, you've done it now. There you go.
Excellent.
There you go.
Brilliant.
Don't doubt yourself. There we go. All
Thank you.
If you could introduce yourself first, Bex, and then take it away.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Bex Guy. I am Transformation Officer for the Hampshire, Southampton and Isle of Wight CCG. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's a lovely opportunity to be able to talk to everybody that's on this call. Any engagement we welcome, and we will jump at the opportunity too. So thank you for having me here today. I'm here just to explain to you a little bit about the therapy service for children in Hampshire. We are looking to re-procure the service. What you can see on my screen now is a poster that we've put together that has been circulated. We're very thankful for Hampshire Parent Carer Network. We have built it collaboratively with some of your representatives. They are in each of the work streams for the therapies re-procurement, and the contribution they bring is amazing. We couldn't thank them enough. They are involved in every step of the way so far, and will be until the end of the re-procurement. So the services that we're looking to re-procure are, at the moment, it includes occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, and physiotherapy. Now, it's only for the children that are registered with GPs in the areas of Fareham and Gosport, North East Hants, North Hampshire, South East and West Hampshire. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to get this poster out to everybody to explain the service that we're looking to re-procure, who we want to re-procure it for, and if there's any gaps in service and anything that we think is missing. And we can't do that without you guys being able to tell us your views and what it is that you think the service is missing. So we're looking to re-procure the new service to go live from the 1st of October 22. So we have, at the moment, we've got quite a short window to be able to do some public engagement and to be able to get that real meaty feedback that we need for the service. So at the moment, if I can scroll down to my page 2, what we've done is we have set up online drop-in sessions that are free and that span over a 3-week period for parents and children, if the children were willing to discuss it with us, to come into these meetings. That with the feedback from Hampshire Parent Carer Network reps, we managed to get some good dates, some good times to suit everybody, to accommodate different working patterns and to try and get in as many families as we can. We have had some communication with parents through these drop-in sessions, which has been amazing, and the feedback has been invaluable. It's exactly what we wanted it for. We've had a dedicated email address and a dedicated telephone line, which has been manned for that duration of the 3-week drop-in centre. What we hoped to gain from that is to have really informal, we didn't want those sessions to end up in a finger pointing discussion, but rather more informative, to see what it is that you think needs to be improved, where you have got issues, where you think there is a breakdown in communication and things that can be improved. We're really keen to get a good service procured from October 1st, 2022, and we can't do that without your input. I am here today to gain any insight I can from anyone that has any questions or any input that they wish to give me now. I have got an empty pad and a pen ready for any questions. I'm not the lead commissioner on this service. Unfortunately, she's on annual leave today, so I am a step in for her. I am working on this project with her, but I don't know the answers to every question that everyone might have. So if there's anything I can't answer, then I will feed it back to the CCG and I will come back to you with answers. But thank you very much for listening to me and for looking at my poster.
Thanks, Bex. I'm just trying to copy a link that's actually got all that detail on it, because it's quite tiny, and I'm sure that we have parents joining us on phones, and I'm on a laptop, and I'm still struggling to see everything on there. Okay, so any parents that are out there, and I'm sure there are lots of you who have an involvement with the therapy service, I think Bex would really welcome at this point, some questions or just some feedback on the service, because that's how they can ensure they get it right going forward. The date you said for starting this was September 2022?
1st of October
1st of October.
Yeah, that's when the new service will commence.
Now, I will kick you off with one, because if nobody asks it, I will be astonished. And it's a hot potato in all the get-togethers and parent-led engagements I cover. And that is talk to us about sensory, because that is an absolutely massive one. And I know it's one that lots and lots of people will want to know whether that is going to be included going forwards.
Yes, thank you for that, Sarah. Actually, we are fully aware. The CCG have recognised that is a gap in service at the moment. We have done an awful lot of comparisons between the old specification of Solent and the new proposed specification, and we are doing everything we can to get that sensory support included in the new specification.
I'm just going to pop a message in just to ask everyone to put anything in there. They've got it. Okay. Okay, so we get a few bits and pieces coming up. One here saying there is a shortage of speech and language therapists across the area, and are we going to be looking therefore at the amount of provision and not just the type of provision?
Yes, absolutely. We are looking at data at the moment. We've had 3 years worth of data sent to us from Solent, who is the current provider, and we are assessing the number of children that are currently being assessed, the waiting lists, and how we look to progress that moving forward. So how best to manage the waiting list for different areas of the therapy service, and speech and language therapy is definitely one under investigation.
Can you just clarify something for me then, my understanding? So are these currently services, some of them which are outsourced and are now being brought in-house? Or
No,
are they being outsourced to a different provider with different?
Well, at the moment, they are all under Solent, but we are looking, when we go out to reprocurement, it will go out to a portal where people can come in and bid for the services. So at the moment, we don't know who is going to be the new provider for Hampshire Therapies, but we would very much like it to remain as one provider.
Okay, and because I'm wanting to make sure that we're all clear, what is Solent?
Solent is it's a trust. So the Trust of Hospitals is Solent Trust of Hospitals. I can clarify that. I will feed that back. Purely
because I mean, it's not a trust that I'm in, so I think it's confusing when you're being told that therapy is being provided by a different trust to your own. And you know, okay, people like to understand that. A comment here: please keep it so that parents can self-refer. So helpful to be able to feel that you can advocate directly for children without schools acting as a gatekeeper of services in which they are not specialists.
Sorry, can you read that out again?
Yeah. So it's about parents being able to self-refer for therapies. So please keep it so that I can send you all of these, Bex. So don't bother about scribbling them all down. I'll send them to you.
Okay.
And please keep it so that parents can self-refer. So helpful to be able to feel that you can advocate directly for children without schools acting as a gatekeeper of a service in which they're not specialists.
Okay, that's fantastic feedback. Thank you. We will absolutely.
And I think that's because we do have some services that, you know, some are referred. You have to go to a GP to get a referral, some has to go through your school, but actually, you know, sometimes or frequently parents are, you know, they are the expert in their child.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also that's important, of course, for younger children who might not yet be in a setting as well.
Yes.
Everybody is surprisingly quiet out there. Come on, you lot. I know that you have lots to say about this.
It's no problem if people are not prepared with their questions, then they can always email me straight over and I can go back to them with answers.
So a question asking for the clarity about Solent, which is why I asked. So does anyone living in Hampshire have access to Solent, even if our local trust is different?
I believe it's down to where the location of the children's GPs.
Yeah, that's what you read, wasn't it? So you said if you were registered as a GP in one of those areas,
yes.
Then, so even if, so I live in North Hampshire, where I'm on the border between Hampshire and Berkshire and Surrey, which means that for some services we get booted over because that's just our nearest hospital. But Solent would still provide those therapy services.
Yes.
Okay. So somebody else here I don't know if this is a professional colleague, and it may well be. It said Solent NHS Trust provide community and mental health services to people in Southampton, Portsmouth and parts of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. They are the CAMS provider for Portsmouth and Southampton as well. And then a parent saying, okay, so my GP is in Hampshire, but our paediatric service is a Surrey trust. Yes, I'm in the same boat as that parent. I live in North Fleet, but we go over county to Frimley. But I believe the way it works is that's still provided via Hampshire. Is that?
Yes, I believe so.
Is there an area within Hampshire? You see, I've opened the floodgates now. Is there any area within Hampshire that suffers from greater waiting times than others? And if so, is there a clear reason as to this?
That is something that our data work stream is looking into. We've got all of the data for the last 3 years from Solent Trust, and one of our work streams is dedicated to that. So at the moment, they're investigating all of the trends, all of the different areas, and where we can make improvements. So that is something that's in hand.
Because it's obviously something that parents are wary of, is the, you know, the concept of a postcode lottery, that, you know, if you happen to live, I don't know, and I'm pulling places out of the sky here, you know, Basingstoke versus Aldershot, and whether that changes your likelihood to access a CAMS service or whatever. And, you know, so people will be keen to eliminate any of those. Right, hang on, I've now got so many coming through, I need to whiz back through and see what I can find. So going back to the comment about speech and language therapists, the shortlist of speech and language therapists, very often the NHS says 6 sessions and then discharge, rather than a continual programme. Will you be looking at how the therapy is delivered? It's an interesting one, that, because that's 6 sessions and discharge might be how it's structured in an EHCP, I suppose, but as a result of something that's been recommended by a therapist. But I guess looking at how it's delivered is as important as who delivers it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to, it might be difficult to assess the need for speech and language therapy and sensory. It's so hard to access at the moment that it could be hard to get an accurate picture. I understand that. So what somebody's saying is, if you aren't able to currently get help and get your child assessed, you don't know what your child needs, and therefore you're not going to know because we don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't know how you're building in those unknowns into your information.
Well, the only way that we can do it is to look at the previous data. We would love to be able to predict, and we can make a best educated guess as we can, but they are things that we just can't control that.
It's tricky. I mean, I know, for example, that the number of EHCPs is going up currently on an annual basis. So I guess we could assume that there would be an increase over time in needs for therapy services as well. Another comment saying a young person friendly referral process and a provider who provides young person accessible information is also important, and that would be great. Yeah, I think that's really important, and particularly what age, Bex, are you covering?
It's 0 to 18.
0 to 18. You know, and so for some of those young people, they're starting to want to be involved in what's being, should we say, done to them in that way, because actually perhaps they've had a parent advocate for them, but actually they're getting to a point where they ought to have an understanding themselves. Oops,
absolutely.
Sorry. Now it's going. Is this the kind of stuff you were after?
Yeah, this is exactly what we were hoping to gain from it. This is brilliant. Thank you.
Is the budget for the new service higher than the existing one, or are we consulting on a service that's expanding or contracting?
At the moment, there is no budget for the new service, because we want to see what it needs to look like. It's definitely not going to be any smaller than the previous procurement, but we don't know, because obviously we need to add in sensory support. We're going to take into account all of the waiting lists and see how we can project that going forward. We're not sure of the exact budget yet, but it's something certainly that finance will be aware of. That.
Okay, so playing the role of cynical parent here just for a second. Sensory is a huge need. I hear a lot about it. But there are other much smaller needs that are needed by a fewer number of people. Is there a risk that the loudest pressure group, if you like, can get their service into the service, and yet other services might fall out because they're in less need?
I would like to think that wouldn't be the case.
Only asking it because I know that there will be people out there thinking, okay, that's all very well, but OT needs sensory training. Are they hiring with these qualifications? Now, my understanding is you're not hiring. Is that right? You're contracting.
Yeah, it will be contracted out to someone. I am not going to get involved or can say on the qualifications of those people. That will all be down to quality.
I know when we've spoken about it before, and we spoke, and now I'm confused because I suspect we're talking about two different therapy services within Hampshire. When we spoke to the lady who runs the communication and interaction team, who are actually part of education, I think, and not on part of health, they talked about the qualifications that they were bringing in for people with sensory. And I know that they were looking at very specific ones that were sort of acknowledged by parents. And it will be something people look for, that the therapy that's being provided meets the need. And, you know, whether it's in the EHCP or something, you know, do they have, in my case, it's specific training to work with a young person with Down syndrome, and that's quite specific. It's quite tailored. So that's what people are looking for. They're looking for the knowledge that the service will provide what they need.
Yeah.
Okay. You've got someone from the data work stream on with us, just telling us that they're here.
Oh, brilliant. Who's that?
Do you want me to admit? It's Darren. Hi, Darren.
Oh, hi, Darren.
We have got some very, very knowledgeable reps around the county who do absolutely great work advocating for parents and their young people. Right, I think that's all of the comments I've got coming through at the moment. Can you do me a favour, Bex? Can you just read, have you still got that PDF up?
Yes, I do.
Can you just tell us if there's any if there's still any dates left and when they are?
No, the last one was yesterday, 11 till 12:30. But if there's anyone that does want an engagement session with myself and the lead on that work stream, then by all means we can book in some one-to-ones. That's no problem at all.
Okay, so if anybody feels passionately about that, if you drop your that you'd like to have a chat with the guys onto the chat, and I will pass that on to Bex and the team.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bex. It's such a big area. It's almost so overwhelming that people don't know what to say. And yet I know if we talk to them about much more specific bits, they would have lots and lots and lots to say. And
yeah.
And I feel not dissimilar. Okay, Sarah. Bex, do you want to mute yourself? And
yeah, absolutely.
Sarah, you can hopefully, you should be able to go straight into share and share your bits, and it should come up for us.
Okay.
There you go. Excellent.
So, Sarah, could you just confirm what you can see for me, please?
Well, at the moment, I've got a black screen saying Sarah has started screen sharing, which is intriguing, but I can't actually see anything.
Okay, let's have a look. So, I was hoping it was a PowerPoint slide.
Have you got PowerPoint open?
Yep.
And have you clicked across to the PowerPoint within the share screen sharing bit? Technology is amazing, but it's also stressful.
It is when it's all new. Just for context, for parents carers on the call, I was off on maternity leave all during lockdown and COVID. So I left working in an office with real people, and
there you go.
And then when I came back off maternity leave, we didn't work with real people anymore, and we worked with something called Teams. And then this morning we're now working with a new Zoom. So apologies, and this is a whole new world for me. So
strikes me you're a fast learner though, Sarah. So if you've got your slide up, if you just want to let everybody know who you are and how you fit in, that would be lovely.
Absolutely. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Cross, and I am from Hampshire County Council Children's Services, and I sit within the procurement and commissioning team. Official title is Senior Category Manager, for whatever that's worth, but ultimately what that means is I look after a range of commissioned services, so services that we buy in to support our children and families. And one of the categories that I look after is children with disabilities. Hence why I'm here this morning or this afternoon. You've got me doing it, Sarah, as well now. And really pleased to be able to talk to you for a little bit about our gateway cards. And then after that, I'm happy to take any questions, and then a little bit about the buddy scheme as well. So you may well have spoken to my colleagues Rose McCullough or Sharon Okatch from the team, from the Short Breaks team, who live and breathe gateway cards applications and contacts with your good selves on a day-to-day basis. And they have been doing lots of work behind the scenes around relaunching the gateway card. Now, a little bit of context as to why we've done this, why have we put changes in place? We know from our data that we had a real split of gateway card holders who either wanted to use their gateway card to access short break funded activities, so short break activities that we fund, and some families didn't want to access the short break activities. They just wanted to go off and do stuff as a family, or go off and do stuff with peer groups and things like that. So we decided, well, actually, let's split those out so we can really focus the funding that we have on short break activities for families that specifically want those. And let's really look at a core offer for families that are wanting to attend other attractions or sort of days out and things like that, because we've never officially looked at that. The card was never originally designed to be used at places like Poulton's Park or Marwell or anything like that. It's just sort of over time it's evolved that many of these places are accepting them, perhaps for carers to go free or for kind of avoiding queues and things like that within the settings. So we're looking to really develop that offer, and we're working with providers. I believe we've already spoken to HPCN about kind of where you guys are using the cards at the moment to either get more accessible entry, as I say, sort of queue skipping, and being able to have sort of carers go for free. But when I finish this slide, I would be really keen to know if there are kind of any other places that you would like us to contact and kind of reach out to and say, please, can you recognise our gateway cards? This is what they're for. This is what other providers are doing. Would you like to join up as well? And obviously we need to offer something a little bit back to them as well. So what we're doing is offering sort of free advertising. We're hoping to be doing newsletters out to you. We've had the message back loud and clear that I think in previous years we used to communicate much more regularly, much more frequently with our gateway card holders about activities that were coming up, about other things that were going on. And over the years that's sort of reduced somewhat. So we've heard and we will be doing much more regular newsletters for you. So within that, we'll be able to tell you which sort of settings and attractions. It could be sports venues, for example. It doesn't have to be sort of the ones that I've mentioned. It could be anything. We're really open to hearing about who you would like us to contact and work with to get that sort of tier 1 offer available. So as it says here, that's the sort of the turquoisey one at the top. So this is for children and young people who need some support when they're visiting attractions or sort of community activities. And it's generally where you're paying an entrance fee to go into. And we want to try and make that a bit easier for you, make that experience a bit easier for you, because we know that many of you use your cards for that and not for accessing activities, short breaks funded activities. So that brings me on to the second card, the yellowy orange one below. So this is both. This card covers both. This is for children, young people and families who do require that bit of support to attend attractions or community activities, but also absolutely do want to attend those holiday or weekend or youth provision as well that are funded through short breaks. So that's just a little bit of context, and I can just hear my little one upset upstairs. Apologies, my husband is on childcare duty, but if the sound comes through, I haven't left her. She has got a parent with her.
Sarah, please don't worry, we have all been there.
And you may get the 6-year-old coming in as well, so apologies for that too. They seem to love a keyboard, my two. And so that's why we've done it. That's why we've split them out. And the other reason why we have done that is A, so that providers know what the cards are for and who has what eligibility, who has sort of selected which one they want. But what the data will do behind the scenes, what the Gateway Card data will tell us is, instead of having, and I'm making these numbers up because I'm afraid I don't know the actual numbers, but say we had 6,000 Gateway Card holders, and we've got all your information that you submit when you fill out your application form. And the reason that we ask those questions is to help us commission those short break activities. So we know where to commission them, we know what to commission, we know what the biggest needs are, we know where the biggest volume of Gateway Card holders are. Now, historically, we've been doing that for all of you, but if only a small percentage of you, or it is actually quite a lower proportion of you, are wanting the card to access activities, specifically funded activities, that's distorting that information. So actually what this will now give us going forward is a real clear picture of who is using the services that we fund, where you want them, what your needs are, and what they need to look like. And that will really help us prioritise and target that funding. So again, bear with me. I'm going to now try and do something really technical, which is read the notes on the slide, which are on my screen, hidden under Sarah's picture. So bear with me a second. Right, so
feel free to move me or turn me off.
Now let me see if I can. Oh, look at that. Sorry, Sarah's just whizzing across the screen there. Right. So just to let you know then, a bit of guidance. When you're applying for a new card, you'll be given the option to choose your card. So which one you want. Do you just want it to go off and do things as a family together, or do you want it for the short breaks funded activities? And you'll be given the option at that point as to which one you want. However, if you're not applying for a new one or you're not renewing, that's okay. The old one will still be in circulation for nearly another year now, so May 22, and that will still give you exactly the services that you've got now. So if you don't need to do anything, you don't need to do anything. So if you weren't due to renew or you weren't due to apply, you know, that's absolutely fine. It's only if perhaps you haven't got a Gateway Card and you want to now start booking for summer activities, for example, and you apply now, it will give you a choice. We've got the details on there. Oops, we did do, there we go. I can move on. So we've got the link to the Gateway Card website there. And Sarah, will we be able to, it's recorded, isn't it? So it will be part of that, but we're more than happy to sort of share these as well. And you've got the team's phone number. Please do take a note, and the email address as well. And I'm sure many of you have spoken to sort of Rose and Sharon, if you are indeed Gateway Card holders, but they're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. If you're experiencing any issues with your applications, please check our website guidance, but equally feel free to pick up the phone or drop them a line. That's what they're there for, and they're more than happy to help. They fully appreciate that if you're trying to do something online and it's not quite working, you might not want to have to go back online and find out where you can get help. Pick up the phone, it's not a problem, that's what they're there for. Sarah, can I ask, are there any questions on?
I was going to suggest we cover off these ones before we move on.
Yeah,
so couple of questions, couple of points. Firstly, can you confirm that the card covers young people in Hampshire, not Portsmouth or Southampton? And what age does the card cover young people up until? Yes, absolutely. So these are Hampshire only children, young people. So you must live within Hampshire. And yes, that is excluding the unitaries. And it's up to the age of 18 for short break activities. Super, thank you. There's another question saying there is already an access card available through a company called Credibility that a large number of UK attractions recognise. Are you aware of this? Is the Gateway Card purely for Hampshire attractions? The Gateway Card is, the only restriction to it is it's for Hampshire children, young people. If there are attractions that you would like us, that are further afield, and that you would like us to kind of broker that arrangement with, absolutely. We're not restricted in that sense. The eligibility for the Gateway Card is restricted, but where it can be used, that's still very much a kind of, this is a new piece of work. We're currently exploring it with a range of providers, so just let us know. And can I just make a note of that other scheme that was around, please? Called Credibility, with the ability in the middle being a capital A. Thank you, that's really helpful. You probably won't be surprised to hear that quite a few people have mentioned Merlin. So the Merlin group as being, you know, one that it would be great if it was recognised by. So that's It's Legoland here nearby, isn't it? I thought Park Chessington are all nearby, Alton Towers further afield. And I know that's somewhere where was one of the things we see discussed often on groups, that their criteria now for getting to the queue jump pass that you were talking about it's much more challenging than it used to be. So I guess people would be really interested if the Gateway card could be used for that queue jumping process.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked about you getting the 1 or 2 at either a new application or a renewal. So at the point of renewal, you've already obviously got a card. Does there need to be, I mean, well, how do you evidence? Do you need to evidence getting the number 2 card as opposed to the number 1 card?
So when you go on, so you can just choose one or the other, and sorry, it's quite distracting. You can choose one or the other, and depending on which one you choose, it will ask for a different type of eligibility.
Okay.
And if you have a look on the link, if you go through the application, it will obviously let you know, and Rose and Sharon will be able to advise on exactly what those are. But it's no more onerous than it is sort of, you know, the current process that hasn't changed. We've just tried to make it easier to get the kind of the lower level. If you just want to use it to go off and do your own thing, let's make that as simple as possible. But obviously, if you're still trying to access the funded provision, that same eligibility and evidence will apply, please.
So just to give me an idea, if we're looking at the higher level card, would you expect a child in receipt of DLA to be able to access the higher rate card?
Yeah, that's absolutely one of the criteria. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
just so that people have an understanding of sort of what we're looking at. Can we have something on the back of the card that states this has been issued because the person has a disability and requires or may require assistance, so that it can be used as proof of disability at sites outside of Hampshire? Certainly, I know I've got one of the old yellow cardboard cards.
Yeah.
When you flash it at somebody in lots of places, they have no idea what it is, because to be honest, it looked like I could have made it at home. So I think it's one of those things where these look great, they look very professional, but I think it's important that it's a sort of a recognised.
Absolutely, and I think our comms around it is what's really, really important. So we want to make sure that we're sending out these images to those attractions, and it will say at the top, for children and people with a disability. It's got our logo on it. We've tried to make it without overloading it. We've tried to cover off those basics, but that will be around us kind of getting in touch with those providers as well, and making sure that we explain this is what these cards are for, this is what they mean, this is what the green one means, and this is what the orange one means, and we will absolutely be doing that.
And for that number 2 card, you talked about how that would enable you to access support with short breaks activities. So is that things like where I know locally families who've had a one-to-one in a swimming lesson, is that card that evidence for accessing to that pot?
So if I take swimming lessons out, because we're not currently doing swimming lessons at the moment, so this will be your weekend activities, your holiday play schemes. We're funding youth groups as well. So it's the kind of, some of it's specialist, so it's sort of specialist play schemes, but absolutely some of it is kind of one-to-one support in more mainstream settings. Again, a list of our activities will be on the website. And these, as I say, it's around, it's more activities, so the activity-based settings.
The swimming, because traditionally swimming was something covered by short breaks. Is that something that's fallen out then?
About 2 years ago, yeah.
Okay. I've got some long lists of activity places that I'm not going to read out to you, but I will make sure I pass on to you, because
really, really helpful. Thank you so much, everyone, for.
Because, you know, I think there's obviously lots of different places around that, you know, and we're very lucky in Hampshire that we have lots of places to visit. So I think we've covered off Gateway. So should we move on to slide number 2?
Okie doke. So I've just noticed it was credibility, which I've written down, and Merlin Group was a big one, and you'll share the other list. Fantastic. And we realised this isn't a one-off. So we're not just going to write out to all of these providers and then everything's going to be fixed. So, you know, we realise that we're going to have to refresh this, we're going to have to remind them, and we're going to have to kind of build those relationships over time to really get a solid kind of quality offer for that tier 1 for those cards. So beginning of a work in progress, but we're actually really quite excited about it, and really would welcome any of those recommendations and suggestions. So thank you. So now, can she change slides? Let's have a look.
While you're thinking on that, I've got one more question, just because I've looked at that picture and it says expires. So how long are they issued for?
Oh, we're into detail now, aren't we?
You can see 3 fingers from Sue. Is that 3 years, Sue? There you go.
Thanks, Sue. 3 years.
Yes. That's what I remember, is that they'll last for 3 years, and then at the end of that time, you'll be asked to provide your evidence again. And that's just to make sure that we don't have children or you families applying on behalf of children who are 17 who go on using it well beyond their childhood. So it will need renewing, but not annually.
Thank you.
So thank you. And I think there's also a refresh element within that as well, just for us to ensure that, you know, if you've moved out of county, for example, that we ensure that we're kind of capturing those. And again, that's not about us trying to be kind of onerous with this repeated process. It's about making sure that we can use the funding available to us and make sure that these cards are for Hampshire children and young people. So we really want to protect that. Right, slide 2. Oh, do you have something that says buddy scheme review? Wonderful. Okay, and baby has stopped crying, so that's a win-win. Right. So you may well know, if you are a Gateway card holder, you will have had some communication. You may well remember from a previous consultation that was carried out that we had reviewed the short breaks offer. And as part of that, we were looking to review the buddy scheme offer. And the primary reason for that is at the moment, if you phone up and try and get a buddy, you'll be very, very lucky to get one. There's probably some nodding and some head shaking around the frustration I can imagine in houses. We want to fix that. We want to look at, understand why that is and look at how we can fix that. And just to keep it really, really simple, I think it's helpful to think about it in 2 parts, because one part will affect you and the other part probably shouldn't, because it's behind the scenes. So the first bit that we're doing, and we're doing this at the moment, and this is me just sort of introducing it today, but there will absolutely be more communication about this. If you are a Gateway card holder, you will receive a sort of a questionnaire asking you for your views and asking you for input. If you are open to us and have a social worker, you may well, you know, have comms through the disabled children's team as well.
Sarah, can I jump in? Sorry. Could you just give us a brief introduction to the buddy scheme? Because I think there are people who aren't aware what the scheme is. So is that okay?
Absolutely. So the buddy scheme, as it stands at the moment, is part of our short breaks offer. So this is where we have funding that's available to support children and people with a disability for specialist provision. Now, some of our children and young people don't want to access group activities. They don't want to access activity sessions. They just want some one-to-one support to be able to go into the community, to be able to go and do activities that their peers are doing and not with their parents or carers. So the buddy scheme is about having a one-to-one person that you can go off and do whatever you might want to do. That could be going to the park, it could be going bowling, it could be going to cinema, it could be actually for some really, really vulnerable children and young people who aren't even yet, you know, at that stage, it can be doing some work in the home to work with you to develop those outcomes and develop the confidence to be able to go out one-to-one in the community. So a whole range, and again, this is a service for Hampshire children and young people only, going up to the age of 18, and it's part of our short breaks offer. And this is open to anyone with a Gateway card holder at the moment as well. So anyone who has a Gateway card. The process at the moment is that you will phone up a central phone number. This is managed by an external third party on our behalf. You'll let them know, I'm interested in having a buddy, my child or young person would like to go out once a week, once a month, whatever it might be. Here are their needs, this is how old they are, this is where we live. We'd like someone to come and do this for us, please. And that's actually a very, very difficult thing to recruit to. It's case by case, it's ad hoc. And what we're finding is that the answers that families are getting is, we're really sorry, we haven't got anyone at the moment, we've not been able to recruit anyone, and we're trying to look to address that. The sorts of things that we're looking to change to try and make the offer more sustainable for our providers to then be able to recruit to is to have a sort of set some different expectations. So for example, rather than phoning up and expecting there to be a ready-made buddy ready for you at the end of the phone, to actually say, yeah, great, okay, we understand your requirements, we understand your needs, we'll go and recruit someone to do that, or we'll go and match you with someone. We might need to wait until we've got a couple of others in your area, and then we can group them and have a proper post for somebody, and then we'll recruit to that post, because recruiting someone for a couple of hours a month is quite difficult. So that's what I mean by lead-in time to allow for recruitment, and that's around maybe a change in expectation. So you might wait a month, 6 weeks, but actually that might give them a bit longer to be able to put that in. So rather than thinking there's a group of buddies available, actually let's set the expectation that there isn't anyone, they will recruit specifically for you. We're also looking at potentially introducing minimum and maximum number of hours that families can use the children, that use the buddies for. So at the moment, it's very, very flexible. And I think sometimes too much flexibility, again, can make it really, really difficult for providers to recruit. Nothing has been set. When we go out, we'll go out with maybe some recommendations. I think we're looking at perhaps a minimum of a 2-hour slot and a maximum of a 4-hour slot. Completely open to discussion on that. Just thought, we'd pitch it somewhere and see what people think. The other thing that we're considering and that we will be consulting on is the fact that at the moment, if you have a buddy, you can keep that buddy, and you can keep that buddy for 5 years plus. And actually, what that means is that we're not able to get other people who then need buddies through the service. So maybe we need to be looking at it a bit more in an outcomes focused approach. So for example, I'd really like a buddy to help my young person with their independence, going off, doing their own thing, getting the bus, buying things in the shop, whatever it might be, even accessing group settings. I'd like them to improve their confidence to be able to go to the short break activity schemes, but they need some one-to-one support initially to enable them to do that, to settle, to get used to it. And we'd really we're thinking that, if we defined those outcomes at the beginning with the family and with the young person, child or young person where possible, what do they want to achieve? What do they want to get out of their buddy? What does that look like? Is that maybe a 6-month buddy, a 12-month buddy, 18 months? Again, we're not restricting it. We're just looking for suggestions, because what that will mean is hopefully more families would be able to benefit from the scheme. Whereas at the moment, we're finding that we have a very closed pool of people that we're able to recruit from, and therefore we're very limited on how many families can actually access the service. Eligibility, so this is something else that we're really open to views and opinions on. At the moment, if you have a gateway card, you can access a buddy. If you have a gateway card, you can access a buddy and short break activities. If you have a gateway card, you may also be open to social care. So you may also be having care support hours. So we're just looking at, okay, well, is that the best use of different funding pots? Is that the best use of provision and resource available? Would it be better, and these are just examples again, would it be better to say, let's just keep this for gateway card holders who don't have care support or don't have DP at direct payment hours or anything like that. So people who don't have any other social care support, let's keep it for them, because then this can be the prevention support. Or actually, no, let's keep it open for everybody, but let's keep it really outcomes focused, in which case we can then time limit it. So again, really open to suggestions there. These are just things we've been thinking about that might help make the service more accessible to people, because at the moment it isn't. And just that final bullet there, an agreement. So the buddy scheme has been in place for quite some time now, and I think, as is often the case with these things start out as one thing and then evolve over time and they become something completely different. So historically, the buddy scheme was around encouraging people, children and young people, to be able to attend group settings where appropriate, working with them to get to that point so that they could. But equally, there will always be some children and people whereby a group setting is not appropriate, and they're always going to want to have that one-to-one support. Again, it was meant to be around sort of time limited. That sort of got lost in translation over the years, and it has been extended. So what we're proposing is, let's just be really clear. Let's be really clear up front with everyone. Let's be clear with our families. Let's be clear with our young people. Let's be clear with our workers or providers. You know, what is this for? How long can you have it for? Who can have it? And what's it meant to achieve? And that's all I mean by an agreement. So just a kind of a really simple kind of understanding that we sign up to. You know, so if you want to access the buddy scheme, this is what we're offering. And equally in return, we would be looking for families for things like, if you're looking to book a buddy, there's a notice that you have to give. You know, you can't expect to have one within 24 hours. Equally, if you need to cancel for any reason, and obviously illness, you know, of young people aside, but if you're going off on holiday and don't tell your buddy, you know, there are some expectations around things like that. So agreement around expectations for all parties, just so that everybody is absolutely clear what the service is for, what you can expect, and also maybe a bit about what happens when things don't go the way you want them to, and how we can look at driving improvements as well. So that is the core offer. That's the core offer that we're looking at. How might it look different? How could we shape it differently in order to ensure that more families can get a buddy? Because we know the demand is there. We absolutely know that the demand is there, and we are in no way meeting that demand at the moment. So we need to do something differently. We're absolutely open to what that might look like. We will be consulting, as I say. These are just some headlines for you, but you will be getting some comms out, as I say, if you are a Gateway card holder. We'll also be coming through HPCN as well to cover off those of you who aren't at the moment but might be in the future, just to make sure we've got a really wide range of views. Before I go on to the next bit, because I think that's less relevant, can I just ask Sarah if there are any questions or equally suggestions for that core offer? Because I'm more than happy to take away sort of anything from today as well. We don't need to wait until the more formal stuff comes out. I'm more than happy to take feedback today.
I've got some questions. Firstly, first world apology. If it's suddenly gone noisy, my dishwasher's on a flush cycle. Okay, a couple of things. Can you clarify the age that the card goes up to? So I think you said 18, but does that mean it stops on the 18th birthday, or does it mean it continues through the 18th year?
I might have to defer to Sue again. I think it might be up to the 19th birthday.
Up to the 19th birthday, so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. It's obviously a bit of a funny one because, you know, young people become an adult on their 18th birthday. So there was another one here about ages. And what is in place for children, for young people with SEND up to age 25 who will continue to need support to access community activities and maybe use the Gateway card to evidence this? I think particularly when the EHCP can cover young people up to 25, it always seems a bit of a disparity that things stop at 18. So what is in place to cover that gap?
I think that's an absolutely fair point, Sarah, and it's one that we have struggled with. And in terms of the short break activities, we had to take the funding decision, and it was purely a funding decision to really focus and prioritise on the up to 18, just to ensure that we could have sufficient provision for that age group. So in terms of the over 18s, that's not kind of a services that I'm involved in, but I think we are dependent as well on our community provision, on what else is out there that people can kind of purchase privately by private arrangements. Also, if any young people are open to adults health and care, and what support services they can put in place, what respite they offer. Sue, I don't know whether you've got any other additions to add to that.
I haven't. I think exactly what you say, Sarah. Adults health and care will provide some things or enable people to be signposted to things, but I don't think we see this buddy scheme as extending up to 25. But you know, again, when we do the consultation, we just need to listen to what people say. And if we need to engage with our colleagues in adult services, we can do that. I'm sure they've heard the message before, as we've heard the message lots of times about the buddy scheme needing to be more widely available. So it won't be a surprise if we have to go to them and start thinking about how we cross over.
Thank you.
Super, thank you. A question here to say, is it behaviour related? I suppose that means is access to the scheme behaviour related, but I think you said it's dependent on you having a gateway card. Is that right? So
at the moment, yeah, so at the moment there's no defined need, if you will, no category of need. It is if you have a gateway card, you are eligible to apply, and if you can get one, well done, because people are really struggling. In terms of the focus of it, you might say actually that is more around behavioural needs, because this is where the one-to-one support comes in, because actually if a young person's needs are such that they can't be in a kind of a loud activity environment, as I say, like some of our other schemes, that's where you might find, we probably would, well, we do when we run the data, there is a focus on kind of behavioural needs, but there's no restrictions currently.
We've talked about the upper age limit, Sarah. We haven't talked about a lower age limit.
For short break.
I'll let you answer this, Sarah.
This is where it goes. So in terms of short breaks, I think it's technically 0. But obviously, for our activities, they're Ofsted registered. It will depend on the age range of the registration. We tend not to have any provision for kind of under 5s. It's sort of 5 and above for our play schemes and things like that. In terms of the buddy scheme, I think there is an older age. I think it's kind of, and I'll check the guidance, 7 or 8 possibly. And again, that's just around appropriateness of an individual, a child going out in the community with another adult, essentially. So there's kind of a bit of an older age there. I think that's great, but it will be on our website.
A couple of questions. Does this mean the buddy scheme isn't accessible until the review is complete? No,
the buddy scheme is running business as usual. Rose Road are running it on our behalf, as they have done. I spoke with them this week. We're really still trying to recruit buddies. They're speaking to new agencies all the time to try and fill our gaps where we've got them in rural areas. So no, the buddy scheme is business as usual, and this is just me working away behind the scene.
Just getting a bit more clarity on a question, Sarah, so that if you want to go on to your next bit, we'll come back to this question in a minute.
So the bit that I've talked about, which is the buddy scheme offer, is the bit that would you would notice a difference if you were a family accessing our scheme. Oh, sorry, it's the same slide. It's just the next blob. The other bit that we're looking at is the review of the management of the buddy scheme. So as I've mentioned an organisation, Rose Road. So at the moment, Rose Road, oversee and manage the buddy scheme on our behalf. So essentially, we've kind of outsourced it via a grant agreement with Rose Road. And as you'll know from, or you may well be aware from the previous short breaks consultation that's happened sort of a year, 18 months ago, we have had a reduced short breaks budget. So we're also looking at how we can operate the buddy scheme from a management perspective within a reduced budget, so with less money available. And also to try and address some of these issues that we're experiencing. So I've said there, how can we best manage the scheme to ensure the best outcomes within the reduced budget available, which is basically my way of saying how can we try and make it work better with less money. And that's something that's kind of going on behind the scenes. We're reviewing different options, and if I go on to my next slide, I can tell you a bit about what that looks like. So that is just, we'll be engaging with yourselves, with a wide range of families around the buddy scheme offer. We'll be linking that in to what the overarching oversight and management of the scheme might look like. And we'll be then forming some recommendations that will go to a sort of an in-house management board within Children's Services for some recommendations and approval. As I'm sure you can imagine, within the council, we need to have our approval processes in place. This is what we're suggesting. This is why. This is the evidence base. This is the feedback that we've had from our families. This is how we've, what they said, what we've done. This is what we've heard, what we've taken forward. If for any reason we're not taking recommendations forward, why not? Why is that? And then implementation, which looks really easy and simple on a lovely chart like that, but actually there's quite a lot to it, and we are conscious of timescales. The current grant in place was for 6 months, which I think takes us up to sort of September, October time. Obviously, there's an understanding of a period of transition if we look to do something different. But ultimately, my key goal, and I've spoken to Rose Road this week about this, is reducing the impact on our families and on any of the existing buddies out there, because we want to keep them. We don't want them going anywhere, because whatever the scheme looks like come October, there will be one. We do need buddies, and we will need them going forward. We've got another 18 months of funding minimum. That's secured, that's ring fenced for this. That's not going anywhere, and we want to spend it. And I'm just looking at how we spend it the most effectively to make sure we get buddies when we need them, where we need them, for who we need them. And we're not doing that at the moment. So ultimately, that's what this piece of work is about. Thank you.
Just spotted a question I actually missed, Sarah, saying, how will young people be consulted about the buddy scheme?
Very good question. So we will be going with the sort of, I mean, I say consulted, you know, we're not looking to do a big formal consultation. We've already done that. We don't want to and I know parents have got enough to do, and there have been, you know, in recent times, significant consultation activity undertaken. So it's how we do it in a proportionate way to get the views without kind of doing it in too formal a way. So I'm actually hoping that whatever it is that we send out can be used for children and young people, or young people, perhaps not children, but we can also look to have kind of alternative media submissions. You know, people want to do whatever it might be, how we've done it before. You know, people have sent in videos of what they think, or pictures, or, you know, literally we can be really open about how that feedback is received. We will also go through our buddy scheme providers, and we can be asking young people through them. The only thing I'm mindful of is timescales. So anything that we do, I need to just make sure that we can do it within the timescales, but we are really open to suggestions as well. If there are things that we're not doing that we should be doing, or things that we should be tapping into that we're not tapping into, please say. More than happy to explore that with you. And obviously we'll be going through HPCN as well. And we will be linking in with kind of our participation colleagues within Children's Services as well, and seeing what existing groups have they got of young people of this particular cohort that we can link in with.
Super.
I need to go, I'm afraid. So if there's anything that comes up that I need to answer, please hold on to it, Sarah, or even email it.
I will do. I appreciate we've got through an awful lot today, and we're slightly running over, and I know we've lost Alistair as well. I think I've gone through almost everything I've got for you, Sarah. I've just got one question, although I'm not 100% sure, but we'll ask it. One-to-one support for those with social and communication needs is not always behaviour related. Now, I'm not sure whether that relates to Gateway or to Buddy, but how is the level of provision determined?
At the moment, it's very, very flexible. So as I say, we're not using if they go back a step. So the Gateway Card eligibility is quite broad, and the evidence on there is hopefully not onerous. Please do feedback if you're still finding it onerous. We're still kind of embedding this process. But at the moment, we're not looking to commission the buddy scheme or any other scheme based on specific need. It will be around a broader eligibility. And I think for me, the buddy scheme is about, you know, we know we've got a reduced budget. We know we've got reduced resource in terms of people. So what's the best way to target it? What's the best way to resource it? We don't have to be specific around need and what, you know, I can't remember the wording of the question, sorry, but just in terms of, we don't need to restrict it by need is what I'm saying. We could maybe just restrict it around, and this is just a could, for whatever reason, if your young person can't access group settings or noisy settings or whatever it might be, for activity settings, we don't have to be prescriptive about the reason, just whatever the reason. So we're not looking to get into that level of detail necessarily, unless, you know, there's a counter argument from feedback that actually we should be more specific and we should really tailor it for a particular category of need, because that's the need that's missing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really, you're trying to have permission to meet need, aren't you? So, and without being prescriptive. Yeah. Just a question about where buddies are recruited from.
So interesting one. So at the moment, they are recruited from generally sort of care support agencies. So these are agencies that already have that type of worker, if you will. We do have, there are sort of some different sort of more new providers coming on board that are buddy, you know, kind of buddy providers. That's how they are sort of framing themselves, naming themselves buddy providers rather than care support providers. And this is something else that we need to take into account, because previously we've always used CQC registered providers, so sort of agencies, same as our care support agencies. When I say agencies, I don't mean I mean, you know, care support providers, agencies. So CQC registered provision. So obviously if we've got any personal care needs during the buddy session, that obviously all the safeguards are in place, and that's something that we need to think about going forward. If we're going to start, you know, trying to look at volunteers potentially to broaden the pool of people, if we're going to look at non-CQC provision to broaden the pool of people, i.e. basically go, you know, and try and recruit people from where we can, we need to do that, you know, that basic not basic, but that core due diligence to ensure that, you know, whatever it is, wherever we're getting people from, we're doing appropriately and safely, and all the safeguards are in place. So that's something that we need to explore going forward. We know we need to broaden the pool, but we need to do it safely and appropriately.
Super, thank you. Thank you. We've covered a lot of ground today, a lot of stuff, and I'm conscious that we've just ticked over time and we've lost a few people. So thank you very much for your time, Sarah, and to Bex, who's still here somewhere in the ether. Just a couple of sessions that I want to mention to parents. On Monday the 28th, so that's next Monday at 11 AM, we have a session on complex care engagement. So that's for those parents with children with very complex care needs. We've got a session at 11 AM to come and have a chat about that. Thursday next week is our evening Future in Mind event. That's at 7 PM. So that's for parents of carers of children of young people who might need input from CAMHS or have issues with perhaps anxiety or mental health. And next Friday, which is the 9th at 10 AM, we've got an annual review workshop and workshop on how to use the EHC hub with the SEN team. So a few other things going on. There are get-togethers still going on this month around the county. You can, of course, join any area, just wherever you live, thanks to Zoom. And all those dates and times are available on the What's On page of the HPCN website. We will, of course, be putting this recording up on through our social media channels, and I will pass all those bits of information that people have put in chat on to Sarah or Bex as appropriate. Does anybody else have a burning question at this time? Otherwise, I shall close down the meeting. I shall take that as a no. Thank you very much, all of you, for your time. Thank you for joining us. And we hope to see you at an HPAC event before too long. Thanks, Bex.
Thank you for having me today.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.